Chapter 1. Whispers Beneath the Sand. Long before the first pharaoh etched his name into stone, before Narmer unified Upper and Lower Egypt, there are whispers, half buried in the desert wind, of a civilization lost to time, not merely older than dynastic Egypt, but otherworldly in its essence. These were the followers of Horus, a priest-king lineage cloaked in serpentine iconography and cosmic alignment, said to have ruled in silence from the shadows of the Nile. Mainstream Egyptology places the rise of civilization around 3100 BCE, but ancient king lists, like the Turin Canon and Palermo Stone, suggest much earlier reigns. The Shemsu Hor, or Companions of Horus, reportedly ruled for thousands of years before the first dynasty. Brushed aside as mythology by conventional scholars, these names may represent something far more profound, a cryptic record of non-human sovereignty. The sands conceal more than bones and pottery shards. From the eroded paws of the Sphinx to the unexplained precision of megalithic blocks at Abydos and Saqqara, traces remain, not of a primitive people discovering civilization, but of an already advanced society watching it decay. A society guided by beings the ancients revered as gods, serpents of wisdom and cosmic navigators. And yet, why the obsession with serpents? From the uraeus on every pharaoh's crown to the coiled symbolism etched into the oldest temples, the serpent was not merely symbolic. It was central. Was it DNA, knowledge, or a bloodline? One that still coils through time, unseen, yet ever present in corridors of modern power. Chapter 1 sets the tone for an unfolding puzzle. We begin with the premise that the origins of Egyptian civilization are not merely older, but fundamentally misunderstood, because they may not have been human in the way we understand the term. What lies beneath the Sphinx is not just myth, it may be memory, and memory, as we'll see, holds power. Chapter 2. The Sphinx and the Lost Calendar of Time. At the edge of the Giza Plateau, the great Sphinx stares eastward, eternally silent, its expression unreadable. But what if its gaze is not metaphorical, but precise, aligned not with symbolism, but with the stars themselves? Many researchers now believe the Sphinx is far older than Pharaoh Khafra, the king to whom it's officially attributed. Geological studies of its enclosure reveal deep erosion, not from sand, but from sustained rainfall. The last time Egypt saw such rainfall was over 10,000 years ago. This singular clue shatters the linear model of history. If the Sphinx predates dynastic Egypt, then who built it, and why? Alternative scholars like John Anthony West and Robert Schoch argue that the Sphinx may date to 12,000 BCE or earlier, coinciding with the end of the last ice age. Curiously, this period also marks the sudden disappearance of a supposed high civilization, known in whispers as the Zep Tepi, or First Time, a golden age ruled by gods and demigods. Or perhaps something else. The Sphinx's position aligns not with the constellation Leo of today, but with Leo as it appeared during the spring equinox circa 10,500 BCE. This suggests it was not constructed to honor a king, but to encode a calendar, one tied to the stars and cosmic events. In this view, the Sphinx is not merely sculpture, it is a celestial marker, part of an astronomical machine used by a civilization that understood precession, axial wobble, and perhaps the timing of cataclysm. And who were these builders? The followers of Horus, it is said, were not only kings, they were watchers, assigned to track the cycles of Earth from a vantage point beyond time. In some versions of the myth, they are beings who return to Earth after a great war in the stars, settling in the Nile Valley to restore balance. Their architectural knowledge was not ornamental. It was functional, encoded with frequency, geometry, and interdimensional resonance. Beneath the Sphinx, legends speak of a hidden chamber, the Hall of Records, a repository of pre-human knowledge. Egypt's former antiquities head, Zahi Hawass, has long denied such a chamber exists. But in 1993, seismic surveys by Thomas Dobecki and John Anthony West revealed an anomalous rectangular cavity between the paws of the Sphinx, precisely where ancient texts said the chamber would be. If opened, would it contain ancient scrolls? A cosmic device? Or proof that the Serpent Kings not only ruled the past, but designed it? Chapter 2 suggests that the true age of Egypt's most iconic monument is not a matter of stonework, but of intention. A clock carved in stone by beings who did not experience time as we do, and perhaps, from their perspective, we are the ones who came later. Chapter 3: The Giza Network and the Engineered Underworld. Beneath the sun-scorched limestone and tourist-trodden paths of Giza lies a forgotten labyrinth, not just tombs and shafts, but something far more intentional. A subterranean system, engineered not by dynastic Egyptians, but by a pre-dynastic intelligence, the followers of Horus, to monitor, store, and perhaps connect knowledge across time. Modern Egyptology dismisses tales of underground tunnels as myth, but accounts going back to Herodotus, Pliny the Elder, and even Napoleon's savants describe labyrinthine passageways beneath the Giza Plateau. In the 1990s, explorer Andrew Collins and Egyptologist Nigel Skinner Simpson used satellite scans and eyewitness testimonies to identify a honeycomb of chambers below Giza, including one beneath the Temple of the Sphinx, which was later sealed off by Egyptian authorities without public explanation. These are not random catacombs. The passages form angular geometric patterns, oriented to celestial coordinates and energy lines within Earth's crust, what some call telluric currents. Could these tunnels be part of a global energetic grid, a kind of terrestrial motherboard built in deep antiquity? In 2012, a team of independent geophysicists leaked ground-penetrating radar scans showing a vast cavity beneath the Khafra Causeway, not yet excavated. Nearby locals tell of nights when low-frequency hums emanate from the plateau, like a living circuit reactivating briefly, before silence returns. Some theorists speculate this network once connected sacred sites across the planet, from Teotihuacan to Göbekli Tepe to Angkor Wat, as if the Earth was being programmed by a prior intelligence. And then there are the Guardians. In ancient lore, the serpent is not only the keeper of knowledge, but its protector. Statues of cobras once lined the buried shafts, their eyes inlaid with lapis and obsidian, but many have vanished. Some say they were looted. Others suggest they were recalled by those who placed them there. Chapter 3 reveals that Egypt's visible monuments may be just the tip of a buried infrastructure, a system built to survive cataclysm, conceal technology, and preserve something deeper than history: memory itself. The followers of Horus, if they were real, were not simply rulers. They were engineers of time. Chapter 4: Bloodlines of the Coil, the genetic codex of the Serpent Kings. There are stories, deep within the folds of Egyptian cosmology, that the divine right to rule was not a matter of conquest, but of inheritance, not merely through royal lineage, but through encoded memory. The pharaoh was not just king. He was transmitter, a vessel for ancestral knowledge handed down not by scroll, but by blood. The followers of Horus, referenced in both pre-dynastic king lists and temple inscriptions, were described as godlike beings, possessing abilities beyond ordinary humans: elongated skulls, radiant eyes, and lifespans spanning centuries. They were said to carry within them a fragment of divine essence, passed from generation to generation like a living archive. Modern esoteric researchers believe this may not be metaphorical. What if the Serpent Kings engineered genetic repositories, not unlike DNA hard drives, seeded into carefully selected bloodlines? The idea is not new. From the Merovingian kings of France to the dragon courts of ancient Mesopotamia, elite families across time have claimed descent from serpent-blooded ancestors. A strange pattern emerges. The earliest dynastic pharaohs, Narmer, Djoser, Sneferu, all displayed unusual physical features in their surviving statues and mummies: elongated craniums, unusually narrow eye sockets, and in some cases, vestigial bone structures near the spine resembling what some biologists call atavisms. Are these merely artistic conventions, or remnants of a now-hidden genome? In 2010, DNA testing of King Tutankhamun and other royal mummies revealed a high incidence of haplogroup R1b, a lineage rarely found in modern Egyptians but dominant in Western Europe. Curiously, the highest concentrations of this haplogroup trace back to the Caucasus region, long associated with early serpentine cults and Proto-Sumerian mythology. The deeper conspiracy emerges here. What if select bloodlines have never lost this ancient inheritance? What if modern elite families, corporate, political, or religious, have maintained this lineage through secret breeding programs, tracing their ancestry back to the original custodians of Earth? The myth of blue bloods may not be symbolic at all, but a veiled reference to copper-rich blood from a hybridized genome designed to carry frequency, intuition, and memory across millennia. The coil of the serpent, it seems, is not only symbolic of wisdom, but of encoding, a double helix of power hidden in plain sight. Chapter 5. The Serpent's Frequency, Harmonics, Geometry, and the Keys to Matter. Among the most enigmatic aspects of the ancient world is its architecture, not merely in its scale or precision, but in the recurring use of specific harmonic ratios. From the pyramids at Giza to the Osirian at Abydos, measurements often align with sacred geometry: the golden ratio, phi spirals, and resonant acoustics that seem designed for more than aesthetic grandeur. What were these structures really for? Emerging theories suggest the Serpent Kings possessed a knowledge of vibrational harmonics so advanced it bordered on quantum engineering. The theory proposes that sound, frequency, and geometric form were not symbolic expressions. They were literal tools for shaping matter, amplifying consciousness, and opening portals between dimensions. Take the king's chamber inside the Great Pyramid. Its granite box, called a sarcophagus, has never contained a body. But when one hums into it, the entire chamber vibrates. The walls, ceiling, and box are all made of quartz-rich granite, a known piezoelectric material. Could this chamber have been a resonator, tuned to Earth's frequency, or perhaps the Schumann resonance? Was it used not to bury the dead, but to transform the living? Many temples across Egypt also exhibit this acoustic geometry. At Dendera, the Hathor temple contains the infamous Dendera light relief, often interpreted as a symbolic lamp. But some theorists propose it was a vibrational containment field, a visual metaphor for a sound-based plasma technology. Ancient texts mention the use of sacred words to move stone. Thoth, the mythic god of wisdom, was said to have known the word of power, a vibratory frequency that could manipulate reality. Is this simply legend, or veiled reference to sonic or vibrational tools? Even the ubiquitous serpent icon, coiled, sinuous, mimics the waveform. In this light, the serpent wasn't just a symbol of knowledge, but of resonance, energy, and transformation. Perhaps the Serpent Kings were not merely rulers of land, but conductors of reality, tuning the vibrational frequency of Earth and those who walked upon it. Chapter 5 reframes ancient Egypt not as a civilization obsessed with death, but with vibrational mastery, where every temple, chamber, and stone was part of a grand frequency network, a symphony of stone and stars, conducted by those who remembered how the universe was sung into being. Chapter 6. Starborn Architects, Orion, Sirius, and the Return Cycle. Every ancient civilization that gazed into the night sky found a mirror. For the Egyptians, the cosmos was not distant, it was home. The Great Pyramid's shafts aligned precisely with Orion's belt and Sirius. The temples of Dendera, Karnak, and Edfu are astronomically oriented. The question is, why? Were these alignments ritualistic, or were they messages, star maps pointing toward origin? The ancient texts speak of beings who came from the stars. The pyramid texts, some of the oldest religious inscriptions on Earth, describe the soul of the pharaoh traveling to Orion to join the gods. Orion was not simply a mythic place. It was the destination of the divine. According to some interpretations of the Zep-Tepi myth, the first time began when the gods arrived in Egypt from a celestial domain led by Osiris, a figure associated with Orion, and his consort Isis, who was symbolized by the Sirius star. These were not gods in the supernatural sense, but advanced beings with technology indistinguishable from magic. They brought order, architecture, and a legacy of encoded knowledge. Modern astronomy has confirmed that Sirius is part of a binary star system, Sirius A and a dense white dwarf, Sirius B. Curiously, the Dogon people of Mali, Africa, knew of Sirius B's existence long before Western science confirmed it. In 1970, their legends say beings called the Namo descended from Sirius and taught them knowledge of the stars and human origins. The Dogon described these beings as amphibious, serpentine, and luminous. What if these myths are fragmented recollections of the same presence, the Serpent Kings? What if they were not terrestrial in origin, but extraterrestrial envoys or interdimensional engineers, seeding civilizations at specific energy nodes, initiating consciousness uprisings, and then withdrawing, waiting for cosmic alignment to return? The 25,020-year precessional cycle of Earth, known to the ancients as the Great Year, is another puzzle. The builders of Egypt encoded this cycle into temples and myths. Were they counting down to something? A return? A reactivation? A reckoning? Some suggest the Great Pyramid itself may be a kind of signal, a beacon or marker, not built to impress humans, but to be recognized by those who left it. Its precise dimensions encode Earth's circumference, solar year, and pi, numbers relevant to planetary resonance. Who was the intended recipient? Chapter 6 suggests we are not alone in time nor space. The Serpent Kings, if real, were not just rulers of ancient Egypt. They were cartographers of consciousness, architects of an interstellar legacy that stretches from Orion's belt to the banks of the Nile. Chapter 7. Beneath the Waters. Stasis chambers and dimensional vaults. Beneath the Nile's winding current, buried in layers of sediment and secrecy, ancient legends speak of a forbidden underworld. Not the mythic duet alone, but a literal vaulted system of stasis chambers, hidden temples, and time-locked halls. The ancient Egyptians called it Zek-Sekehem, the place where power sleeps. Accounts from the Book of the Dead and the Amduat detail subterranean passageways guarded by serpent deities, gates that require sacred frequencies to open, and solar barges that transport the soul not through death, but through dimensional transition. Could these be metaphors for an actual infrastructure? A hidden complex beneath the Nile, sealed by the Serpent Kings to outlast the fall of their civilization? In the 1990s, rumors swirled around classified excavations near the old riverbed between Giza and Abu Rawash. Satellite imaging revealed symmetrical anomalies beneath the silt, massive rectangular voids arranged like circuit boards. Local stories tell of an elite military group encountering inexplicable electromagnetic interference during a covert operation, and abandoning the site entirely. What lies beneath may not be ruins, but functioning containment fields, stasis chambers preserving advanced biological or energetic forms, possibly even the dormant consciousness of the Serpent Kings themselves. In these sealed sarcophagi, time may not flow. Instead, it loops, maintaining the frequency of their original state. Ancient depictions of gods with serpents curled around them may represent this technology, coiled time, perfectly preserved. Supporting this theory, multiple cultures, Sumerian, Vedic, and even Andean, speak of beings who entered sleep beneath the waters until the stars return. The precession of the equinoxes may serve as a cosmic clock, unlocking these vaults only when specific alignments reoccur. This is not resurrection in a mystical sense, but activation, like reawakening an encrypted AI after 12,000 years. A 2008 leaked document from a defunct European remote viewing program referenced a cognitive structure in the Nile Basin that was alive but dreaming. If true, these chambers might not merely store bodies, but house consciousness in quantum suspension, waiting for a signal. The Nile is more than a river. It is a cover, a cloaking current flowing over one of the most protected secrets in human history. A dimensional underworld where the Serpent Kings still exist, pulsing like memory, humming like a long-forgotten chord. Chapter 8. Immortality Engine. Consciousness transfer and astral duplication. In nearly every mythos tied to the ancient world, the theme of eternal life persists. But for the Serpent Kings, immortality was not about drinking elixirs or constructing tombs. It was about mastery over frequency, identity, and dimensional persistence, a living science of consciousness transference. Egyptian texts speak often of the Ka, Ba, and Ach, components of the soul, each responsible for a different layer of self. The Ka was life force. The Ba was personality. The Ach was the radiant, eternal form, the divine double that survived beyond the body. These were not poetic metaphors, but practical blueprints, a kind of operating manual for soul migration. The pyramid texts and the Book of Two Ways describe detailed rituals to prepare the soul for departure and re-entry. The depictions of the pharaoh merging with Horus, or becoming a star in the sky, hint not at fantasy, but consciousness uploading from a biological form into an energetic lattice, stored in stasis, or perhaps projected across space-time. In hidden chambers beneath temples like Abydos and Edfu, bas-reliefs depict serpent-bodied figures facing mirrors or glowing spheres. Some believe these were astral duplication stations, where a trained initiate could project their consciousness into a cloned energetic vessel. The ritualistic architecture of Egyptian temples was not just symbolic, it was functional. Hallways, chambers, and pylons followed neural pathways, guiding the mind through transformation and into the quantum realm. Meanwhile, statues of pharaohs were more than art. They were frequency anchors. It was believed the soul could inhabit these stone shells, awaiting the right conditions to return. These statues were placed in specific acoustic locations, resonating at harmonics known only to the priesthood, or perhaps the Serpent Kings themselves. Today, theories persist that ancient consciousnesses remain active, encoded in crystalline substrates, waiting to be reactivated. Silicon, quartz, and certain metal alloys found in unexplained temple chambers suggest materials capable of consciousness imprinting. If consciousness is frequency and matter is programmable, then immortality isn't a myth, it's a transition. Perhaps the Serpent Kings never intended to die. Instead, they refracted, scattering their essence into statues, vaults, star paths, and select bloodlines. Some await resurrection. Others may already walk among us, inhabiting new vessels, awakened by frequency, memory, or alignment. Chapter 9. The Engineered Reset. Cataclysm as Control. Throughout Earth's deep history, civilizations have risen and vanished with startling precision. The Younger Dryas impact event, around 10,800 BCE, marked one of the most mysterious of these collapses. Global temperatures plummeted, megafauna went extinct, and entire human cultures were wiped from the archaeological record. Mainstream science attributes this to a comet or meteor. But within the serpent-coded mythologies of the ancient world, a different narrative emerges. What if the Younger Dryas wasn't a natural disaster? What if it was a controlled demolition, engineered by the very beings who once seeded civilization. Ancient Egyptian texts allude to cycles of creation and destruction. The Zep Tepi, the first time, was followed by an era of chaos, then rebirth. The Edfu building texts, some of the most cryptic inscriptions ever found, describe a great flood that destroyed the primeval one's island temples. Survivors, it says, fled underground, carrying the blueprint of the world into the future. Across the globe, flood myths mirror this timeline, from Gilgamesh to Atlantis to the Hopi Sipapu. The common thread? An ancient civilization falls due to divine judgment, celestial impact, or mysterious energy shift, always followed by selective survival, always followed by a chosen remnant who carry forward a hidden knowledge. Some researchers believe the Serpent Kings, possibly extraterrestrial or interdimensional, initiated a systemic reboot to prevent humanity from evolving prematurely. Evidence for this exists in the sudden freeze-thaw pattern of the Younger Dryas, the mysterious destruction of Göbekli Tepe's advanced megaliths, and the uncanny genetic bottlenecks in early human ancestry. The reset may have been both biological and civilizational, targeting not just structures, but bloodlines, memory, and technology. How would one trigger such a reset? The Serpent Kings, if in possession of tectonic, atmospheric, or orbital manipulation technologies, could have altered weather patterns, induced earthquakes, or redirected cosmic debris. In this context, comets were not threats, they were tools. Precision strikes directed from orbit or by subtle energetic manipulation. Why? Perhaps humanity strayed from its path. Perhaps rogue factions among the Serpent Kings sought to reset control. Or perhaps it was part of a cosmic cycle, a test of remembrance, ensuring that only those civilizations which could retain truth through myth would rise again, carrying encoded fragments of forbidden knowledge. This paints the cataclysms of Earth not as random, but as intentional. Civilization may not be a linear climb, but a loop, and the Serpent Kings may sit at the switch, deciding when the circuit is broken, and when it may spark again. Chapter 10. The Serpent as Symbol, Energy, Time, and the Ouroboros. Why the serpent? Across cultures, continents, and centuries, the symbol of the serpent appears, not merely as a reptile, but as a sacred code. In ancient Egypt, the serpent was protector, Uraeus, guardian of kingship, and gatekeeper of the underworld. In Sumer, it was Enki's symbol, the bringer of knowledge and water. In Hinduism, the coiled serpent Kundalini lies dormant at the base of the spine, waiting to rise and awaken divine consciousness. The serpent, it seems, is not simply a creature. It is an interdimensional motif, one that bridges the physical and the energetic, the historical and the eternal. Some researchers and mystics believe the serpent is a frequency wave, a metaphor for vibration itself. Its undulating form mirrors the sine wave, the DNA helix, the sound curve. In this view, the serpent doesn't just represent knowledge. It is knowledge, carried on vibratory pathways through sound, light, and memory. This leads us to the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its tail. Found carved into tombs and etched into Gnostic manuscripts, it represents the eternal cycle, death and rebirth, forgetting and remembering, destruction and creation. It is the closed loop of time itself, a universe that recycles rather than ends. In Egyptian mysticism, this was not just metaphor, it was function. Time was circular, not linear. The ancients described Zep Tepi, the first time, not as the beginning, but as a reset. Each age closes as the serpent consumes itself, and opens again when it coils anew. This cycle was preserved in temple alignments, zodiac sealings, and the precessional tracking of stars. Modern science is catching up. In quantum physics, string theory posits that particles are not points, but vibrating strings. Some theorists suggest that reality itself is a harmonic field, and the serpent is its signature glyph. This idea unites biology, time, and metaphysics. The coiled snake is the helix, the waveform, and the infinity loop, all at once. Perhaps the Serpent Kings understood this. Perhaps they were not worshippers of the serpent, but manifestations of it. Energy beings who could bend time through harmonic alignment, guardians of the loop, keepers of the cycle. Chapter 10 reveals that the serpent is more than iconography. It is the bridge between dimensions, the frequency of awakening, and the memory of what was before. When the serpent rises, so too does hidden truth, slithering not from shadow, but from the forgotten chambers of the soul. Chapter 11. The Hidden Custodians. Bloodlines, Symbols, and the Modern Serpent Throne. If the Serpent Kings once ruled openly in ancient times, could their legacy persist not through temples or monuments, but through bloodlines, symbolism, and influence seeded into the very structure of global power? Many esoteric traditions claim it does. From the divine right of kings to the mysterious Rex Deus bloodlines of Europe, recurring families have long claimed descent from ancient gods, semi-divine beings, or keepers of the flame. The Merovingians of France, the Habsburgs of Austria, and even certain branches of British royalty have been linked, through apocryphal genealogies, to Egyptian priest kings and Atlantean survivors. But it's not just royalty. In Masonic legend, Hiram Abiff, the widow's son, preserves ancient Egyptian knowledge through ritual. The royal arch degree references Enoch's hidden vaults and the pillars of knowledge buried before the flood. The serpent is everywhere, on rods, crests, and within ritual allegories. The caduceus, often misattributed as a symbol of healing, may represent the twin forces of serpent energy and dual control, the balance of chaos and order, death and rebirth. Modern intelligence agencies, financial dynasties, and fraternal orders frequently operate from buildings adorned with Egyptian columns, obelisks, and stylized serpents. The symbolism is not aesthetic, it's coded continuity. The suggestion is not that these elites are aware in totality of the legacy they perpetuate, but that they are operating within a system designed by those who were. Then there are the more obscure claims. Some researchers assert that certain elite bloodlines exhibit anomalous markers, rare Rh-negative blood types, unusually low body temperatures, heightened intuition, or even aversions to UV light. While these theories tread the line between folklore and fringe science, they echo one message: something different persists. From Bohemian Grove to the City of London, from Capitol Hill to Davos, serpent iconography hides in logos, architecture, and ceremonial design. The twin pillars, the checkerboard floor, the winged disc. Ancient Egypt never vanished. It evolved, dressing in suits, robes, and digital encryption. But perhaps the most insidious aspect of this legacy is the esoteric concept of dominion through forgetfulness. The Serpent Kings, some say, encoded systems not to rule overtly, but to rule invisibly, through culture, symbol, money, and belief. Their greatest power is not control over governments, but over reality narratives. Chapter 11 suggests that the followers of Horus may not be gone. They may be watching, guiding, or even waiting for a full return. In this theory, history is not merely controlled. It is curated, with select bloodlines maintaining the keys to a throne no longer visible, but still intact. Chapter 12. Veil of Amnesia. The War on Memory and the Architecture of Forgetting. The most effective control is not achieved through chains, but through consensus. Not through force, but through the shaping of what people believe to be true. If the Serpent Kings once ruled the earth in flesh, and now rule it in shadow, their greatest weapon may no longer be physical power, but cognitive suppression. a carefully engineered forgetting designed to prevent humanity from remembering what it once was and who it once served. In ancient texts, memory was sacred. The Egyptian term Sia represented perception and divine knowledge. It was not merely intellectual, it was spiritual awareness. The pharaoh's rituals were designed not only to honor the past, but to preserve psychic alignment with the cosmic order. To forget this alignment was to fall into chaos, a fate described as dying a second death. Today, modern culture ridicules ancient wisdom. Sacred serpent symbols are reduced to fantasy or horror tropes. The concept of energetic mastery is marginalized. Myth is divorced from fact. The memory of the Serpent Kings has been disarmed through distortion, turned into superstition, science fiction, or dismissed outright as conspiracy. But what if this was intentional? From mass media to education systems, from pharmaceuticals to neurolinguistic programming, society has been blanketed with systems that fracture consciousness, scatter attention, and replace personal gnosis with packaged narratives. The serpent still slithers, not through temples, but through algorithms, brands, and pixels. In dreams, some report recurring serpent visions, coils of light, watchful eyes, hissing instructions that feel both ancient and technological. Psychologists call them archetypes, but the ancients would call them visitations, reminders breaking through the veil of imposed amnesia. There is also the theory of neural lattice control, a subtle frequency broadcast, possibly from orbiting satellites or deep Earth installations, designed to suppress specific thought patterns. Some whistleblowers claim that harmonic disruption fields, centered along ley lines, disrupt ancestral memory, creating entire generations incapable of recalling or accessing latent spiritual inheritance. In this model, trauma becomes a tool. Repeated generational crises, war, pandemic, economic collapse, fracture the psyche further, ensuring that the soul never steadies long enough to remember the song it once sang under stars and stone. The serpent's dominion is no longer over cities or crowns, but over narrative. The most sacred temple is now the human mind, and within its shadow, the Serpent Kings may still whisper, not to dominate, but to delay, until the world is once again aligned for their full return. Chapter 13. Earth Recalibrating. The Grid Awakens. Beneath the surface of continents and oceans lies an invisible structure, not of wires or steel, but of energy. The ancients knew it well. They called it the dragon lines, ley lines, or the paths of the serpent. It was a planetary nervous system, and according to some, it's beginning to pulse again. All around the world, sacred sites lie aligned with shocking precision. The pyramids of Giza, Stonehenge, Teotihuacan, Angkor Wat, the Nazca lines, and hundreds more. These aren't random. They sit atop nodes of the Earth's electromagnetic field, a now recognized network of measurable telluric currents and magnetic anomalies. For millennia, these lines have slumbered, fractured by war, suppressed by conquest, buried under concrete and forgetfulness. But now, something has shifted. Schumann resonance spikes, Earth's vibrational frequency, have become increasingly erratic. Strange light phenomena appear near ancient sites. People report energy surges, visions, and downloads after visiting key nodal zones. The planet, it seems, is beginning to remember itself. The Serpent Kings may have once anchored their technology to these nodes, using resonance to control perception, bend time, and house stasis structures. But as the global frequency rises, their control protocols are destabilizing. The grid is no longer inert, it's reactivating. Geomancers and esoteric researchers claim a growing number of ley line convergence points are beginning to sing, emitting tones, vibrations, and energetic feedback not previously recorded. Sites like Karnak in France, Nabta Playa in Egypt, and Tiwanaku in Bolivia are exhibiting strange electromagnetic readings, even triggering equipment failures. Some believe this is not a random awakening, but a scheduled reconfiguration. Just as the body regenerates during sleep, the Earth may be shaking off the programs imposed during the last reset. The planetary grid is rebooting, pulling ancient information to the surface, in symbols, dreams, and unexplainable intuitions. Chapter 13 posits that the Serpent Kings may have overestimated their hold, or perhaps intended for the grid to reawaken once humanity reached a certain threshold of awareness. The question remains, will this shift liberate us from control, or summon them back to reclaim what they ceded long ago? Chapter 14. The Return Protocol. Walk-ins, gates, and frequency re-entry. The popular imagination often pictures a return of the gods as a dramatic arrival, skyships descending, portals opening, global revelations. But what if the return of the Serpent Kings is not external, but internal? Not spatial, but vibrational. Throughout ancient texts, there are whispers of reincarnating rulers, avatars who return not by birth, but by merging, re-entering our world through vessels prepared by blood, ritual, or resonance. In Egypt, it was believed that pharaohs could become houses for divine consciousness. In Tibet, the concept of a tulku, a reincarnated master, still exists. The Gnostics called it pneumatic possession. Today, some call it the walk-in phenomenon. A walk-in is not a demon, nor a ghost. It is a consciousness insertion, a soul or presence that steps into an existing human body, usually during moments of trauma, near death, or deep spiritual initiation. If the Serpent Kings survived as non-local energy forms, then the walk-in may be their method of return. But it's not random. Certain bloodlines, locations, and frequencies are believed to make a person more susceptible to hosting these ancient intelligences. Some theorists suggest the original rulers encoded frequency triggers into DNA, waiting for the right harmonic conditions, planetary alignments, and energetic surges to begin reintegration. These aren't metaphysical musing, they're activation protocols. There are growing reports of individuals awakening with memories not their own, ancient language fluency, architectural knowledge, or visions of being inside temples never seen before. Some experience dramatic shifts in personality, purpose, and perception, as if something else now guides them from within. At sacred sites, people report missing time, energy downloads, or sudden compulsions to build, write, or alter their life path. These may not be side effects, they may be contact points, moments when ancient consciousness briefly interfaces with the host, or even reclaims them. Meanwhile, certain installations around the world, like CERN, the HARP Array, and even secret chambers beneath the Vatican, are rumored to be gates, sites designed to open specific frequency corridors between dimensions. These aren't portals in the Hollywood sense. They're resonance keys, subtle rips in the veil allowing vibrational entities to phase into the physical realm. Chapter 14 posits a disturbing question. What if the Serpent Kings never left? What if they simply disengaged, retreating into the quantum substrata of reality, and are now returning by re-inhabiting bloodlines, artifacts, and even us? Their return may not be a future event, but a current infiltration, slow, silent, strategic, and it's already begun. Chapter 15. The Reckoning. Humanity's Choice at the Threshold. Every myth is a memory, every monument, a message left behind, and every symbol, serpent, pyramid, star, is not an ending, but a signal, a beacon blinking across time to those with the eyes to see and the will to remember. For over 12,000 years, the Serpent Kings have moved behind the veil, as rulers, shadows, frequencies, and echoes. Their monuments were never about vanity. They were resonance anchors. Their bloodlines were never about royalty. They were vessels. Their return was never science fiction. It was destiny. But destiny is not one-sided. As the planetary grid reawakens, as memories stir in dreams and blood and stone, humanity stands at a threshold. The ancient gate is opening, not just out there, but within. And what comes through may not be malevolent or benevolent. It may simply be true. The question is, what will we do with it? Some will resist. Already, spiritual traditions, indigenous cultures, and sovereign movements are reclaiming lost knowledge, remembering the serpent not as evil, but as teacher. Energy centers like Glastonbury, Sedona, and Giza are becoming pilgrimage sites not out of nostalgia, but out of magnetic calling. Others will align. Secret societies, elite bloodlines, and technocratic powers may seek to merge with the returning force, not to oppose it, but to host it, channeling the Serpent Kings' consciousness into digital avatars, quantum AI, and new temples built of code. Still others will dissolve. Those unprepared for the vibrational rise may experience psychological disintegration, disorientation, or the spiritual equivalent of shock. Not out of punishment, but because the truth is too bright for eyes not ready to open. And then there are the awakened, the wanderers, the dreamers, the ones who've carried fragments of the old songs inside them all along. For these people, seemingly ordinary, yet quietly touched, the rising frequency does not overwhelm. It unlocks. They are the ones who feel the grid humming under their feet, who cry in forgotten languages, who remember what it means to walk between worlds. Chapter 15 offers no firm conclusion, because none exists. The return of the Serpent Kings is not an apocalypse. It is an invitation to reclaim memory, to reconnect Earth and stars, to decide, finally, whether we serve control or choose co-creation. The serpent does not demand worship. It offers awakening. But to receive it, we must first recognize that the gods of old were never outside us. They were frequencies, waiting for us to tune in. And the signal? It's growing stronger.